My name is Corey Ekstrom. I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am the first year housing coordinator on the undergraduate housing assignments team here at the University of Pittsburgh. Today, I will be presenting to you on first year housing at Pitt for the 26-27 academic year, including information on building options, roommates, and living learning communities, what we refer to as LLCs. Um, I am joined today on this presentation by my colleagues Michael E. Sullivan, the Assistant Director of Residence Life, who will be answering questions about our living learning communities, as well as my fellow housing colleagues Kathleen, Ben, and Tig. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of our presentation to discuss some of the questions that this audience pre-submitted for today. If you have any additional questions throughout the presentation, you're welcome to drop them in the chat, and our team will do their best to answer during the presentation. Okay, so today's topics that we will be discussing include the upcoming housing deadline of June 1st and what information we're looking for by then. The building and room type options that we have on campus for first year students that you're able to list as preferences on your housing application. Roommate searching and requests within the housing application. Our current list of living learning communities, where they're located, LLC roommate requests, and all of those important details. And then finally, we will wrap up with the Q&A session of our pre-submitted questions. So our timeline. The first year housing application is due on June 1st at 11:59 p.m. Before this deadline, students can pay their housing deposit, complete the housing application, include any roommate or LLC requests, and generally update their application information. After June 1st, our housing team works hard over those summer weeks to get all the first year students assigned to their housing. We take into account information like roommate requests, building and room type preferences, LLC requests, and DRS accommodations when we assign students. So the more information that you can include on your application, the better for us. I do want to note that while you may have a housing guarantee, that does not guarantee that you will be placed into the housing preferences on your application. While we do our best to assign people to their preferences, we understand that we can't give everyone their number one choice with a first year population this large. Each year in mid-July, we send out our notice of assignments to the first year students. This is typically sent to your Pitt email, where you can then log into the portal and view your assignment and roommates. You will be receiving a lot of information to your Pitt email, so it's good to get in the habit of checking that now. And before you know it, it will be August and we will be preparing for your arrival on campus. So these dates are fast approaching, so be sure to mark them on your calendar accordingly. So what is due by the June 1st at 11:59 p.m. deadline? In order to keep your housing guarantee for the 26-27 year, you must have your housing deposit and application complete by this deadline. You must pay the deposit before you can complete the application, and then the application itself tells us information such as where you want to live, who you want to live with, what meal plan you may want, as well as agreeing to our housing and dining contract. You can go back into each of your application portal pages as many times as you want before June 1st. So if you change your mind, you decide you'd rather live in Tower A than Tower B or have a different meal plan, you can log back into that page of your application and make that change up until June 1st. Two optional parts of the application that are also due on June 1st are the roommate requests. So all intended roommates must request and accept each other via the housing portal by that date. And living learning community requests. So our living learning communities are housing assignments grouped based on similar majors or interests. You only need to indicate interest on your housing application. There is no supplemental application outside of that. So both optional. You do not have to be in an LLC. You do not have to have a roommate request, but they are there within the application if you choose to go either of those routes. I do want to note that the Living Learning Community request does include honors students. Acceptance to the Honors College does not automatically grant acceptance to the Honors LLC in Sutherland, so you will want to make sure that you indicate on your housing application if that is desired. Okay, So, things to think about when completing your housing application. I think the question we always want to ask is what's most important to you in your student experience? Would that be location on campus? Our upper campus is a little less dense, closer to athletics and recreation facilities. It's at the top of the hill, so it has some great city views. Compared with lower campus, that's closer to some academic buildings, has a more urban feel. You might find that you have a preference. Room type and restroom accessibility. What type of bedrooms and bathrooms vary by building. You might find that you're most comfortable in a suite where perhaps you share a bedroom and a bathroom with a small group of 4 to 8 other students, versus maybe a more traditional residence hall where you share your bedroom with maybe 1 or 2 other students, but you have a more communal bathroom situation. We have many different options that vary across our building portfolio. So certainly different options depending on your various needs. Um, Another aspect to consider is roommates. Do you have someone specific already in mind that you want to request? That is an option. If you have a friend from home you want to request to live with, or you happen to find someone through social media, that is always an option. You also have the option to be randomly assigned based on information that you include in your housing application. So our housing application has a questionnaire where you answer questions about, are you an early riser? Do you smoke? Do you anticipate having overnight guests? And that can help match you with a potential roommate. Another thing to consider is that not every building on campus is a good fit for roommate groups of a certain size. If you only have one desired roommate, there's many different buildings on campus that can accommodate the two of you. Whereas if it's a group of 4, 6, 8 students, we might not have rooms in all of our buildings to accommodate that group size. And we do recommend with your roommates that you just get on the same page about what you're looking for and try to coordinate your building preference answers. Just try to help us help you, place you where you want to be, and together as much as possible. And lastly, living learning communities. Traditionally, our LLCs are housed in a predetermined building or floor for the academic year. For instance, the business LLC is in Bruce Hall, while our engineering LLC is in Forbes Hall. If you want to live in one of those communities, indicating so on the LLC page of your housing application is the main way to do that. And lastly, accommodations. Students are able to work with our Disability Resources and Services Office, as well as other resources to determine if accommodations can be granted for things like medical reasons or religious reasons. So if you feel that you have a need, that is certainly something that the university can address as well. Our first year building options, you can look through on our Pitt housing website. So all of our first year housing options have residence life staff, laundry, cable and network access, secure entrances. However, things like the location on campus, the type of room and bathroom, the student population housed there, as we have some buildings that are first year only versus some that have some first year students and some upper class students. So our building pages kind of lay out all of the amenities of each of the buildings that vary, and you can browse the available options on each of their pages to see more information. Once first year students have committed to Pitt and expressed interest in on-campus housing, our team will set you up with your guaranteed first year housing application. You should also receive an email to your Pitt email to complete that by June 1st. Following the link from that email, this is what the portal will look like once you log in. You should be able to see this apply for first year guaranteed housing in the middle of your screen with a link to apply here. This is where you will proceed to pay your housing deposit and complete the rest of the housing application. And as I noted before, you can continue to come back into this application and update information before June 1st. You just want to make sure that you click the Save and Continue button at the bottom of whatever page you've updated, just so that our system can save the updates. The final step of the housing application is the roommate portion. If you've completed all the other parts and you just want to go back to the roommate portion, we have a link here at the top of the portal. It's called First Year Roommate Process that will take you past all the pages you've already completed, just right to the roommates part. Once in the roommate portion of the application, you will see your roommate group status. If you're not in a group, you will see this here that says not in a group, as well as information on how to form groups. You will also see multiple ways to find a roommate highlighted here in this red box on the bottom right. So there are multiple ways to find a roommate within the housing application. If you already know your desired roommate, you can use the roommate search by details feature to find them and send them a roommate request. As long as they have a completed housing application, you can search for them by either their first and last name, their 7-digit student number, or their Pitt email handle. It's typically a few letters and a few numbers. If you do not already know your desired roommate, but you're interested in searching for one, you can use one of the other features, roommate search by profiles or suggest roommates. So both of those features utilize the roommate questionnaire that I mentioned earlier with questions like, are you an early riser? Do you anticipate having guests? And it builds a profile. And that profile enables the system to compare your profile to others and find people who would potentially be good roommate matches for you. So for instance, if I wanted to find a roommate who was also an early riser, but I didn't necessarily care about any other specific answer on the questionnaire, I can use the roommate search by profiles to indicate that I only want a roommate that said yes to being an early riser. And what that will do is it shows me results that have a yes for that answer and then rank based on a compatibility score for the rest of my profile. So that is an option to search for a good match. The system can also suggest someone for you based on your overall compatibility score from that questionnaire as well. And that would be the suggest roommates feature. If you find a potential roommate and want to send them a message before sending a roommate request, you are able to message them individually through the button on their profile. This functions similarly to an email. You can put, a subject in your message, and then it gets sent to both your portal inbox as well as your Pitt email, and then you can continue the conversation there and view your chat history and decide if you want to continue potentially being roommates with that person. The pool of available roommates is changing daily as students continue to complete their applications and accept roommate requests from others. So if you don't find a good match now, we encourage you to check back regularly before the June 1st deadline because there's always students joining the pool every day. And I also want to note that only students with complete housing applications will show up. So if you have a desired roommate, but they haven't quite finished their application yet, you might not be able to find them. Once you've found your desired roommate, one of the parties will need to send a roommate request in the portal. When you receive a request, this is what it will look like. So on the receiving end, you will be given an option to either accept or decline. If you decline, the request will go away. If you accept, you will become a part of that roommate group and it will be listed above. Instead of saying not in a group, it will list your group there. You can decide to leave the group after you accept the invitation, so it is not a permanent invitation by any means, but ultimately you will want to be in your desired roommate group by the June 1st deadline. And this is just a reminder that this portion of the housing application is optional. If you don't want to search for a roommate yourself and you would rather be assigned randomly by the housing team, that is still an option and you don't need to do anything with this portion of the application. Let's talk about living learning communities. The other part of our housing application is the living learning community portion, what we call LLCs. An LLC is a specialized living environment that connects students inside and outside the classroom. For the 26-27 academic year, we have 11 LLCs that are being housed in our first year buildings. They're either major or interest-based. In order to indicate interest in living in one of these LLCs, you will want to select your desired LLC from the list on the corresponding application page. There's no other supplemental applications or essays or anything like that. We should note that you can only apply for one LLC. And if you're not interested in an LLC at all, you can indicate that as well. It is optional. And as I mentioned before, this does include honors students. So if you are in the honors college and you want to be considered to live in the honors LLC, you will need to indicate so on your application. And ultimately, students are randomly picked to live in the community. The undergraduate housing team works with our university partners for each of the LLCs, either academic or interest-based, to finalize the roster and assign students. But like with our other housing preferences, admission to the LLC is not guaranteed. As with other locations on campus, you can request a roommate within the LLC. It's done the same roommate request process that we just went over. However, it is subject to availability within the LLC. So if there are competing priorities, one may get prioritized over the other. Additionally, we ask that you only list one housing preference that matches the LLC. In the event that you end up admitted or not admitted to the LLC and you need to be assigned elsewhere on campus, we want to be sure we have your building preferences on file otherwise. And here is a list of our living learning communities being offered for the 26-27 academic year. You can visit the Pitt Living Learning Community website to learn more about each individual LLC, and the link will be provided for that at the end of our presentation. So I'm now going to yield to Micah Lee, our Assistant Director of Residence Life, to discuss more regarding this year's LLC offerings and the LLC experience.
Thanks, Corey. Hi, folks. Thanks so much for joining today. I'll just say a few words about the programming that happens in the LLCs, and then if there's other specific questions folks have about individual LLCs or anything you want to ask as it relates to our engagement opportunities, I'm happy to answer those in the Q&A session. So our LLCs, I'll say education is a piece of what we do there, but I think what's more important for our office is to think about connection, and especially connection for first-year students. When you're coming to Pitt, it's a large institution in a large city, and it can be hard to find your place and your friends and your connections when you first get here. LLCs are a great way to kind of help provide almost a scaffolding approach to building that connection. So we offer specific opportunities for residents in these LLCs to engage with their community on multiple levels. So that could look like maybe small programs happening on your floor related to your LLC. We also have, each LLC has dedicated institutional partners here at Pitt. That might be academic advisors or other staff members in the Division of Student Affairs. We have some faculty partners. And so that way, students are getting to know not only their peers in their residence halls through the LLC, but also other folks who are a part of the Pitt community. And then the other big piece we try to emphasize is getting students comfortable and connected to the city of Pittsburgh. If you've been to Pittsburgh, you know what an awesome city it is. And there's so much to take advantage of. So it can be nice, especially when you've been in Oakland for a little bit, just to escape that neighborhood and explore a different neighborhood. And so we'll have students take guided trips down to some of the cultural centers in the city, or we do a lot of trips to the ball field to see the Pirates play games, museums, and all sorts of things. One of the things we also really try to emphasize is getting students to learn how to use public transportation, which is such a huge resource here in Pittsburgh. So we'll take a guided trip teach students how to use the bus and how to scan their card and get around the city a little bit. So the LLCs are nice, and especially really nice, again, if you're a first year student or it's your first time here in the city of Pittsburgh, just to get to know a little bit more about what we have to offer here at Pitt, as well as the broader city. And maybe the other thing I'll say here, all of our engagement opportunities in the LLC are optional. So there's no expectation or mandatory engagement if you decide to join the LLC. If you feel like that's not an event you're interested in, certainly there's no pressure for you to join anything. And the other thing I'll say here, so you see the LLC and then the residence hall where it's located. So even if you don't end up signing up for an LLC or you're not accepted into an LLC, if you are a resident of that particular hall where the LLC is located, we try as much as possible to offer our engagement opportunities to every resident in that hall. So if you don't end up getting into the LLC specifically, definitely still check out the living learning community that is in your residence hall, because we do try to offer opportunities for engagement for all residents. So like I said, if you have other questions, feel free to put it in the chat, but I think that's all I'm going to share at this time.
Now we will discuss meningitis. So one of the housing application steps is to provide your meningitis vaccine status. That would be the vaccine status at the time of application. If your status changes before June 1st, you're welcome to go back into the application and update it there. After June 1st, you will need to update your immunization records with student health. Here's some information about the university's policy as it relates to Pennsylvania law that you're welcome to read. Ultimately, it is Student Health Service that is asking for your immunization records. So they have provided the portal where you can update that information, as well as their email here if you have any questions. Okay. Well, we have reached the last section of our presentation. We'll now go through some of the pre-submitted questions that this audience had for today. So starting as a bit of a recap, what is due on June 1st? So your housing deposit and your application must be submitted in order to obtain your housing guarantee. The two optional parts of the housing application are also due on June 1st, and that would be your roommate requests and your LLC requests. What is guaranteed first-year housing? Students who pay their housing deposits and complete their housing applications by June 1st are guaranteed to receive a housing assignment provided by the university. That is what we mean by guaranteed first-year housing. How are students assigned to housing? Is it first come, first serve? No, it is not first come, first serve. After the June 1st deadline, we begin to assign all guaranteed first year students at the same time. Are you guaranteed to be placed with your roommate of choice? While we do prioritize keeping roommates together during the assignment process, we can't guarantee that you will be placed with your roommate of choice. There are sometimes competing factors such as LLC requests, DRS accommodations that don't make it possible, but we do try our best to keep you together as much as we can. Similarly, are you guaranteed one of your top housing choices that you list on your application? We do consider housing preferences, but unfortunately with over 5,000 applications, we just can't guarantee everyone will receive their top choice, but we do our best to assign everyone as best we can. What is Panther Central? Panther Central is a 24/7 resource for all questions housing, dining, transportation at the University of Pittsburgh. So this is their main website here. They're located in the Litchfield Towers lobby, so you're always welcome to stop in person, give them a call, a chat, and they can answer your questions there. When will I receive my housing assignment and roommate information? We will be sending out the notice of assignments in mid-July to your Pitt email address. So you should pay attention to that Pitt email address. Okay. Do I have to live in university housing as a first-year student? No, first-year students are not required to live in university housing. When is move-in day? We do not have arrival 2026 information finalized yet, but it will be coming closer to July, including information on move-in dates and times, ship to Pitt, recommended or prohibited items, all of that important information. Can first-year students rent a fridge and microwave? Yes, the university does offer rentals through microfridge, but more details will be sent out closer to notice of assignments in July, as that does depend on what residence hall you're in. Where can I find more information on first-year residence halls? So as I mentioned before, each of our residence halls have a web page on our housing website, link here, and it provides all of the photos and floor plans we have, furniture provided, amenities, location on campus. So hopefully some helpful information for you to make some decisions there. How can I request an accommodation, including an emotional support animal? So students can request housing accommodation through Disability Resources and Services. Their contact information is provided here at this link. They would be the first stop for determining if we can grant accommodation for your housing. What are the housing and meal plan costs for the 26-27 academic year? We do not have them finalized at this time, but when they are finalized, they will be available on Panther Central's website here. And am I required to have a meal plan? All first-year students who live in university housing are required to have one of the first-year housing meal plan options. You can find more information on those first-year meal plan options on our Dine on Campus website. And I'm going to pass this back to Mike Lee to go over a few questions about LLCs.
Okay, so some of the questions that came in earlier. So are business majors guaranteed housing in Bruce Hall? So like Corey mentioned earlier, unfortunately, we cannot guarantee admission for anyone into our LLC. For our academic-based LLCs, so we have our business LLC in Bruce. The students who have a major aligned with that LLC will receive placement priority. So I can try to remember these off the top of my head. So we have business, nursing, health sciences, engineering. I'm probably forgetting honors is the other one. I believe that's all the academic-based ones, but I could be missing one. But for those, students of that major will take priority in LLC placement. Somebody had asked if it's possible to request to be in an LLC and request a specific roommate, and does the roommate request take precedence over the LLC request? So if you apply for the LLC, that will take precedence over everything else that you have named in the application. So building preference, roommates, the LLC placement will come first there as part of your application. If you would like to request a roommate as part of the LLC, you can do that. But they will also need to apply for the LLC, and we will do our best to match LLC residents with preferred roommates. Again, something to keep in mind there is if you're applying to an academic-based LLC, engineering, for example, and you're an engineering major, but maybe a preferred roommate is not, they may not end up having space in the LLC for a non-major. It just depends on volume and number of applicants that we have there. Somebody asked, I'm in the honors program and on a pre-med track. What LLC options do I have? You have a lot of options, actually. Our honors LLC is a large, very robust LLC. I hear a lot of positive feedback from residents who live there. Nursing and Health Sciences is also a really large and robust LLC, and that is in Tower A. So if you're looking for an academic-based LLC experience, those are two good options for you. If you're not looking for an academic LLC, we have lots of other options. Arts appreciation, music, natural connections, the global neighborhood, gender and sexuality. So there's lots of options for everyone, whether those are aligned with your major or not. And then somebody asked a question about our Natural Connections LLC. Is this an outdoorsy group? Yeah, it kind of is an outdoorsy group. So we actually developed a partnership with Campus Recreation, and Campus Recreation has a program called Natural Connections. And we're offering indoor, especially in the colder months, and outdoor programming that combines ecotherapy. So thinking about like well-being, that sort of mindfulness that comes with being in nature, and that sort of calming presence of like being outside and taking hikes and doing that kind of thing. Some adventure-based activities. So we've gone kayaking downtown Pittsburgh. We do rock climbing, different things like that. So that's all part of Natural Connections. And I think that's all the questions I see on this list, Corey.
Yep. Great. Thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. Here are some resources that we mentioned earlier. So our housing services website that can provide some more information for first-year students, link to our building pages, link to Panther Central, our Living Learning Community website that provides more information on all of the individual LLCs, as well as Panther Central's contact information. So if you have more individualized questions about your student situation, or you felt that your question was not answered today, you can feel free to reach out to Panther Central for assistance. If they're not able to answer your question, they can escalate it to a housing coordinator to help you. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing our future Panthers on campus.